So last night as I was lying down to go to bed, I had this idea. So this happened to me several times where I've had this great idea and I've thought, this is such a great idea, I'll remember it in the morning. And stupid little me really does sometimes think that that'll happen, that I'll remember it the next morning. And maybe once in a blue moon, I do remember. But last night I had such a good feeling about this idea, I forced myself out of bed and I drew it so that I could remember and I could talk about it today. And it was enough that this morning when I looked at the picture again, all those feelings came rushing back and I was just as excited to make this image as I was last night. And so I went off, I bought the supplies, and today we're going through the process from in here to making the final image, and I'm gonna bring you guys along with me. And this is the first point that I wanna talk about. I feel like a lot of times we keep everything up here. At least for me. I mean, I'm not the best at drawing, I'm not the best at writing. That's why I have a very visual medium of video and photo, because I like to visually tell stories. So oftentimes we keep the ideas up here, and I think a lot of times that stops us from reaching our full potential. Something as simple as drawing it down like this helps me start to pre-visualize. And that's something I think a lot of people who are new to photography don't do as much of. Previz, I think, can save you a ton of time in the long run, because just by jotting this down quickly, you're able to kind of look forward and anticipate hardships and those weird little things that pop up that tend to slow you down or stop you. And today I want to take that previz step one step further of even doing a test round. Now for my idea, I think it's going to be easier for me to use a black piece melting into black goo, which I can contrast with a white space. Now I went and I bought this set, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through this whole shoot and process. We're gonna run into all the mistakes that we need to run into so that when we do the final image, it'll go flawlessly. And we know exactly what we're getting into, and it's gonna look awesome. So first things first, let's get into the test. Let's choose our piece and let's start playing around, seeing what this is gonna look like. Here's where we're at. What I've done here is I used these like vinyl tile things from Home Depot to mimic a marble floor. I want the texture that the chess piece is on to look really nice and fancy. And I think the white marble-ish, granite-ish look would look really good in contrast with the black piece. Plus, you're not even really going to be able to tell too much detail because we'll be so focused on the piece. But that's a suggestion that I definitely have for you guys if you're doing product photography. If you're looking for textures or just backgrounds, check out Home Depot. They have these tiles, they're very lightweight and they look relatively good. Lighting wise, I've got my super light over here with my 120D Mark II. And that's pounding through this diffusion, which is just a shower curtain that I've sewn together. Did that a long time ago, I'm finally using it again. And then on this side, I just have this reflector with a bounce, and that's just going to slightly fill in this side of the chess piece. So I think that's basically what we've got for the lighting setup. Now we just need to focus on the chess piece. So I actually have like quite a few videos going on right now. I don't know if this video's come out yet, but that's a video. So as it was drying, Cameron came over and I showed him what I was working on, and I told him that I had tried last night some super glue to try and put some super glue up top so that when it was arced, it had like a drop coming off it, so it did look like it was really melting, but I couldn't get the super glue to stay, and he suggested doing hot glue. So I'm shooting on HP5 and I'm gonna push it to 1600 because I'm really hoping for a contrasty image. So pushing it 2 stops. We'll see. And with that contact sheet and those images, I'm going to wrap up this first part of what we can call the chess series. I'm thinking there's only going to be 2 parts. This first part was to solely focus on pre-visualization and testing, because like I said at the beginning, I don't think enough people talk about this, and I think it's very important to show and to make sure people know it's okay to make mistakes. You have to make mistakes first before you can make the great images. I'm extremely happy that I made this video and that I did these practice shots because I was able to learn a lot about what I like and don't like going forward into making the final image. Just really quickly, my thoughts on where we're at right now. I still think that this picture has potential. I just haven't quite found it yet. I learned a lot about paint and textures and timing with this. The first few pictures I took after a few hours of the piece drying, and I'm really not a fan. That's not what I was going for. And I noticed that as I was shooting, so I began to dump paint on it, and that really gave me a kind of liquidity that I was looking for. Is that even a word, liquidity? I think the best way to describe the style or imagery that I'm going for is the opening to the David Fincher A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. And I don't think I even knew that that was something that I wanted or was going for until I saw the dry piece and the way the paint dried in a matte finish. But the images after I leaned into putting new and fresh coats of paint on it, and towards the end even just dumping it right on top of it, really started to spark that emotion again from me. Which brings me to the final thing that I wanted to bring up. The size of the piece. I think I might have mentioned it earlier in the video, or I might have cut it out, but when I opened the pieces, I realized how small they were. I don't think I was expecting the pieces to be quite that small, but I thought I could make it work as I kept adding more layers and fresh coats of paint. The tiny details in the piece started to vanish because the thickness of the paint just started to overwhelm them. So right now, at this point going forward, I'm starting the search for a new piece, whether I'm going to buy one or my dad even has a lathe. Maybe I'll try to make one myself. I don't know. I need a bigger piece though. The ones I was working with were about that big. I want something maybe that big, like not a real chess piece, if you know what I mean. And once I find that, I'm going to begin the final image and start recording the video for that one. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope visualizing this is beneficial for someone. It definitely was for me, even just making the video. If you watched it and you have any suggestions or some input on the final image, make sure to comment down below. I read all of the comments and respond to them, so those are much appreciated. I think that's gonna wrap it up for this one, so stay tuned for part 2 when we get into making that final image. And until next time, see you later.